Alright, so, this is going to be a video that I've done before, but then I moved over to my Patreon, but I decided, you know what, I want to do this video as like a promotion for, I guess, Patreon in that segment, which is Faction Wars. And as you can see from the title, this is basically, who would win, I don't know what the hell I'm going to name this title, like, what would it be like if the Covenant from Halo fought the Galactic Empire? So, as always, if you're curious about these videos, I recently uploaded a new one on Patreon involving the Shi'ar and the Daleks, and if you're interested in that, and also any other new videos that are exclusive on Patreon, just hit the link below, and if you hit the 4th tier, you guys can send me requests for videos to do here on YouTube. So having said that, let's get into this matchup. Like, what would it be like if the Covenant and the Galactic Empire actually did have a throwdown? Like, what would it be like if you had these two great empires, like, face off? Like, what would be the conflict? Like, what would it be like if these two elite, one's an empire, one's basically a fanatic, an army of fanatics? And what would it be like if these two went to war? Now, this has been a thing that's been described a lot on YouTube. I've seen a lot of videos of it, but I'm going to throw my 2 cents into it. Now, never will you see a more balanced matchup in this segment, because usually I talk about, whenever I do these two videos, they usually have like, okay, so one's going to win the space battle, but on the ground battle it's different, or the ground battle it's going to be different in the space battle, and sometimes it'll be more primitive, like more like axes and long swords and whatnot in these fights. But usually when it comes to these cosmic battles, it's more like, okay, that faction has clearly the better army, but not the best ships, or, you know, vice versa. So that's something you have to look at with this, is that this is actually kind of balanced, because not only do the Covenant and the Empire are very much balanced in terms of like of troops, but also ships too. Remember, Covenant have, you know, their giant Corsairs and their massive battleships. You also have their smaller ships, like their Phantoms, their Spectres, their Banshees. They have a lot of ships that can fight in basically like zero gravity. Like, those are ships that can be launched and fire out into space. Now, the Galactic Empire excels in that. They excel in space warfare. I mean, obviously, Star Destroyers, massive warships that at least 2 or 3 alone could stop an entire Rebel fleet, or most fleets in general. And not only that, they're containing a lot of TIE fighters, as well as TIE Advanced, TIE Bombers, a lot of different TIEs. They also have, of course, the Imperator class. They also have the Super Star Destroyers, although, to be fair, it was only 13. But they do have the more smaller, like, support cruisers as well. So Imperial cruisers as well. These ships are massive. They can punch holes through, just giant holes into a planet or the hull of a ship. But the same could be said for, like, Covenant ships as well, is that those ships are also guarded by shields, but they're also, you know, have massive planet-killing firepower as well. So ship warfare it would be fascinating of itself, because, you know, TIEs are going to be just flying everywhere, and Banshees are going to be very close up as well. You also have just this massive amount of ships under constant creation, I don't know, like, the Covenant always seems to have warships. Either when they assimilate into a new race joins them, or they just have massive shipyards and whatnot. Whereas the Galactic Empire has massive, like, galaxy-wide refineries and shipyards to constantly fuel the Imperial war machine. Now, I've talked a lot about ship battles, but what about ground forces? Now, you may be thinking right out the gate that the Covenant have it on lock for a fight on the boots on the ground kind of matchup. Of course you would. They have, you know, grunts, obviously, they're not no threat, but like elites are the big one. Brutes, hunters, jackals, and, you know, other forces as well. And that alone, to the regular stormtrooper, that's that in and of itself is a nightmare. But you have to understand that stormtroopers, while don't have the best training, they are soldiers that are bolstered in numbers, and they have different factions from mortar teams to sniper teams to stealth teams. These guys are packed to the brim with weaponry that will tear your ass up in a great number. That's the strength of the Stormtrooper Corps, is that these guys are built for like mass fighting, like just fighting in mass numbers. That's what I meant. And yeah, is it going to suck trying to get through that elite shield? Through the elite shield. Not to mention these guys will jump into these guys have like that kind of holy fanaticism to them. Yes, I know that kind of dissipated in the later games, but let's say like this is like the Halo 1 era story. Like this is like Halo 1 era Covenant. So these guys are carrying like of course you even have like Covenant vehicles like Wraith tanks. They have ghosts. They have a lot of machinery that are fast. They can do a lot of damage, and let's not forget their giant scarabs. But yeah, I don't know if a scarab is like its own little like mobile command post. And then you have like AT-ATs, you have AT-STs, you have the speeder bikes. Vehicle-wise, it's almost on par with one another. But like I said, one of the major things you have to look at is that kind of fanaticism that the Covenant have. Trust me, like if you see like a group of stormtroopers coming in to fight, see like an elite with an energy sword impale one of their dudes, they're either gonna freak out and run, or they're gonna fight harder. It's just how it's one of those two options. So stormtroopers, while they don't have the best training, and they're fighting warriors who are vastly better trained, stormtroopers fight in numbers. And let's not forget, they got a guy named Darth Vader leading them. Don't know if you heard of him. Master of the Force, has an axe to grind, breathing problem. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Whereas the prophets just kind of sit around and do nothing. Like they just proselytize, or whatever the fuck the word is. And even though the Emperor kind of does the same thing, the Emperor will get off his ass and wreck shit if need be. And let's not forget they have Inquisitors on their side too, but that's only for Jedi. But I imagine like if the war went on, like okay, I will just set the Emperor would be like, all right guys, get in there, get in that fight. So like I said, this is it's almost like an evenly matched up. Like I said, it's ever so often when I do these, especially the faction wars where it's space battles and space factions, it's really hard. It's easy to see like who has the strengths and weaknesses. But here, between the Covenant and the Empire, it's very much even in that regard. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Who do you think would come out on top in this matchup? Do you think it would be the Covenant, or do you think it would be the Empire? And as always, if you would like to check out the other faction wars, head on over to my Patreon, which is in the link. I'll leave a link below. You guys can check out the new video of the Shi'ar and the Daleks and what that faction war would be about. Also, you guys can check out the other videos on there of faction wars, and not just that, the other videos that are exclusively on Patreon. And like I said, you hit the 4th tier, not only will you get all that, you'll also get the ability to send me requests to me to do here on YouTube. The words got away from me. I'm tired. I'm sorry. Anyway, other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.